Before 1492, Europe's main intercontinental trade partners were, like today, China and India. The goods, mainly silk and spices, were transported on the Silk Road, which had connected Europe and East Asia for centuries. But between Europe, India and China was a big distance and a really big area of land controlled by mostly Muslim caliphates, kingdoms and khanates. The strain of traveling and the large amount of borders the Silk Road was passing jacked up the duties and prices of the goods. Particularly these high prices and the reports of the Venetian merchant Marco Polo put the attention of the direct trade with China and India on a new level. Especially the Iberian kingdoms of Portugal and Castile tried to find a direct sea route to avoid the route through the Arabian countries, which furthermore was controlled by the Italian trade cities Genoa and Venice in the Mediterranean. Under Henry the Navigator, Portugal expanded its dominance on the sea and traded with the tribes on the West African coast. The Portuguese were convinced that the best way to India and East Asia would be around the South Cape of Africa, which is known as Cape of Good Hope today. So the Portuguese were searching desperately for a route into the Indian Ocean. Meanwhile, a Genoese sailor was thinking about reaching India by sailing west. Christopher Columbus, you should all had heard about him. And you surely all know that Columbus was engaged by the Castilian queen Isabella I and her husband Ferdinand II. But before the Spanish couple accepted his plans, Columbus presented his idea to the Portuguese king Johann II. He rejected after his navigation expert found out that Columbus' calculations were surely too short and the west route would take a lot longer than just the 4 weeks Columbus was assuming. So Columbus went to Ferdinand and Isabella, but they were busy with the Reconquista of Spain that included the driving out of the Grenadians in Andalusia. They had no interest for Columbus' plans and told him he should try again after the Reconquista was finished. Disappointed, Columbus wanted to present his plans to the French king Karl VIII. Just little before he went on board a ship to France, he was convinced to try again at the court. So Christopher Columbus headed back and his plans were accepted by the queen and her husband, who hoped to get a bit of the wealth of the East Asians. On the 3rd August 1392, Columbus entered the sea with 3 ships, the Nina, Pinta and his flagship, the Santa Maria. After a short stop on the Canary Islands, the fleet headed westwards and finally reached San Salvador, a small island in the Bahamas, on the 12th October 1492. The crew met their first native, which they christened as Indians because they thought they reached Asia. You really should heard about all this. After this, they went on to explore the coastlines of Cuba and Hispaniola, where the Santa Maria are grounded. After many stops at the natives, Columbus and his crew sailed back to Europe on the 16th January 1493. At the Azores, the Nina lost the Pinta in a giant storm and sailed to the Palos in Spain. By chance, the Pinta reached Palos at the same day the Nina had arrived at the harbor. The crew was greeted and acclaimed like heroes in Spain. Columbus was established as vice governor in the new colonies in America. The history of the world was changed with the discovery of America just from one moment to another.